Hello everyone, Justin with Deep Dive Stocks here, and today we're going to be doing a quick dive into some common VoEx presentations that you should keep an eye out for. In this video, I hope to show you some things such as a stable VoEx, VoEx spikes, VoEx divergences, and VoEx in the inhibition and propagation zones, and of course what they mean for the stock in the future. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. Our first VoEx that we will look at is a stable VoEx. A stable VoEx is one that is confined in between the two horizontal lines, the top line being the inhibition line and the bottom the propagation line. A stable VoEx, or a stock with a stable VoEx, is expected to increase even if there are some dips along the way. The overall outlook is that of a stable stock, which is price appreciation. We can see a pretty good example here with CVX. CVX has a VoEx that is predominantly inside of the stable zone, although there are a few times when VoEx dips into the propagation zone. But we see that for the majority of the time since August of 2022, as VoEx has stayed inside of the stable zone, the price has overall appreciated. CVX is a good example of what you can expect an equities price to do when VoEx is confined inside of stability. An even better example of this is AES, and we see that VoEx has been inside of stability since March of 2022, and since March of 2022, the overall price has predominantly appreciated. Another useful aspect of VoEx inside of stability is when a stock is experiencing a downturn in the price, such as AES during May to about August of 2022, we notice that VoEx stayed inside of stability, which gives us long-term confidence that the price will continue to appreciate. This can be beneficial for various reasons, most notably if a averaging down in anticipation of a future appreciation. This is a perfect setup. Even though the price is experiencing a dip, we see that VoEx was indicating that stability was still present on the stock, and as long as there is stability, a stock will most likely appreciate in price, offering a great opportunity to average down for the next leg up. And we see here on AES that would have been quite the nice game plan. We also see that AES still has VoEx inside of stability, even though it is experiencing a little bit of a dip currently since the start of the year. Now, unfortunately, not all stocks have stable VoExes. And what does that mean for us? One of the ways that instability can manifest in an equity is if VoEx moves into the top zone or the inhibition zone. VoEx moving into the inhibition zone is an unstable event, but it does infer initially a bullish outlook. We can see a great example of this in TK. Notice that in August of 2022, VoEx very decisively moved into the inhibition zone, and ever since then, the price has appreciated quite drastically. But even though VoEx rising into the inhibition zone is bullish in the initial stages, it still represents a price appreciation that is provoking too much instability. So the next question becomes, when can we anticipate, or how can we avoid a resolution of that instability, which is typically to the downside? In other words, if we go bullish on an equity that because VoEx is entered into the inhibition zone, how can we ensure that we don't get caught when the bubble bursts? Well, there are two main indications that VoEx will give us when this instability is finally mounting and a depreciation in the equity's price is most likely. The first is called VoEx divergence. VoEx divergence occurs when VoEx is in the inhibition zone, the price is appreciating, and VoEx starts to fall back towards the stable or propagation zones while the price continues to rise. We can see a current example of this in BILI, B-I-L-I. As the price continues to appreciate, VoEx is in the inhibition zone, but we see that it has started to fall back down to stability. This indicates that the instability that was mounted or the instability that was occurring because of this price appreciation is coming to the surface, and we should expect that this price rally isn't long for this world. The key indicator is when VoEx falls into stability or falls very swiftly down to the propagation zone. This is a clear indication that the price is expected to fall and most likely will give up most, if not all, of the gains it has acquired when VoEx entered the inhibition zone. Another way that VoEx can tell us that a price depreciatory event is on the horizon, despite a previously bullish performance, is a massive VoEx spike. VoEx spikes represent a sudden surfacing of this instability that predominantly resolves on the downside. CPRX offers a fantastic example of this and really highlights the power of VoEx in the inhibition zone and keeping an eye out for how VoEx in the inhibition zone typically resolves. Here we see that VoEx rose into the inhibition zone about in the middle of, November 2022. And the price rose quite substantially up until about a week ago when a massive VoEx spike indicated that the price appreciation was ultimately done. The market said enough is enough and we need to do something else. You'll notice that this VoEx spike occurred 2 to 3 days before the 30% decline in CPRX's price, so VoEx gave a very clear indication of the impending price depreciatory event if you knew where to look. So when VoEx enters the inhibition zone, it is initially a bullish finding, but it basically means that an equity's price appreciation is overheating somewhat. When that overheating or when that instability starts to mount, we can look for VoEx divergence and VoEx spikes to tell us when the overheating is done and the price is expected to give back the majority of the gains that it had acquired while VoEx was in the inhibition zone. And in fact, that is exactly what happened with CPRX when it fell to nearly the exact price that CPRX had when VoEx entered the inhibition zone. But there is yet another zone that we do need to talk about when we talk about VoEx. We've talked about VoEx in stability, we've talked about VoEx in the inhibition zone, so now we talk about VoEx in the propagation zone. Thankfully, VoEx in the propagation zone is less dynamic than VoEx in the inhibition zone, and maybe even less dynamic than VoEx inside of stability. Once a stock's VoEx enters the propagation zone, there usually is only one outcome: price decline. And in fact, a persistent and continued price decline is how it is most often described. A fantastic example of this is Tesla's VoEx. Notice that in September of 2022, VoEx started spiking into the inhibition zone and it quickly fell to the propagation zone and persisted there for quite a while. Not only did Tesla experience quite a substantial drop shortly after VoEx fell into the propagation zone, for the entirety of the time that VoEx was in the propagation zone, the price did in fact experience a continued and persistent decline in price. This is exactly what VoEx tells us when it falls or moves into the propagation zone. In this video, we briefly reviewed VoEx's performance and the equity's expected price movement when VoEx is in the stable zone, the inhibition zone, and the propagation zone. I hope you found this video useful, in particular if there are some equities that you are interested in looking at to see if they are stable or unstable with some pretty novel and statistically significant data. And don't forget, there's Deep Dive Stocks Report cheat sheet that offers a cheat sheet of the various VoEx behaviors. We only covered a few of these in today's video, and we'll save some more of the complex VoEx demonstrations for later videos, but I think that this offers and is a good foundation for starting your VoEx interpretation career. If it's a career, you could be a career, that's fine. If this is data that you like or would like to have access to, I would definitely recommend or consider becoming a member of Deep Dive Stocks, where VoEx for almost every equity in the market can be examined for both its stability or instability. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope it all goes well in the weeks ahead. Happy trading, and I'll talk to you guys next time. Bye.